Breaking news, the Texas flooding death toll reaching 104. 84 of those fatalities, obviously the vast majority, happening in one county, Kerr County. 56 adults and 28 children. And the numbers are still changing. Rescuers are continuing to search for the missing at this hour. Tonight, they do expect that the death toll will continue to rise. And a major focus of the search right now is near Camp Mystic, which is that nationally known summer camp for girls, which sits on the banks of the Guadalupe River. Past and current Camp Mystic campers and families will gather in Dallas tonight. I want to go to Boris Sanchez, who is on the ground there. And Boris, what do you know about the warning that was received at Camp Mystic, right? Specifically there where all of those kids, hundreds of them, right, were sleeping in cabins as the flooding hit.
Aaron, at this point, we're still working to find out exactly what kind of advanced warning, whether an electronic one or any other kind, folks at Camp Mystic received that this wall of water was coming their way. What we know right now is that there was an emergency alert, the kind that tings off on your phone, that sends that really shrill sound that was sent off at 1:14 a.m., assuming that phones were on at Camp Mystic, that they were connected to service. Those alerts should have gone off. Again, it is the middle of the night. It's quite possible that no one received them, but more alerts were sent out. We understand that some 3 hours later, the sheriff's office put out an alert that there was a potential for severe flooding. And then at 4:03 a.m., we understand that a flash flood emergency was issued. So there were multiple alerts sent out through the morning. Again, this is in the overnight hours. It's unclear if folks had their phones on, if in this rural area people actually had cell service. Understandably, this question has been posed to local officials if there was more that could have been done to alert the team and the campers there that something like this could happen. They've been reticent to give direct answers. Have a listen to this.
Why that information didn't get down to the camps and why they weren't evacuated. Can you answer that now?
That is a great question.
Was any emergency alert given out on the 4th?
So again, that first alert coming out at 1:14 a.m., it was at 4:03 that a flash flood emergency was issued across Kerr County. It was at 5 a.m., Aaron, that the Guadalupe River, on the banks of which we are right now, just overflowed, sending a 20-plus foot wall of water going down the path that it has here, hitting Hunt, hitting places like here in Kerrville, where we are right now. Again, we're still working to find out exactly what advance warning people had, but there was a very limited amount of time to act, and for some, clearly, they just didn't have enough time. Aaron?
Boris, thank you very much. I want to go now to the former Kerr County Commissioner, Tom Moser. He had pushed for a more robust alert system for such a tragedy as we have now seen. And Commissioner, I appreciate your time as people are trying to understand what happened and with such an incredible loss of life and children being among those dead, so many children. I know that you had pushed for changes, a stronger, more modern alert system, specifically in this area, in Kerr County, where the vast majority of the death is so far. Can you explain exactly what you wanted to happen?
Yeah, Aaron, thank you. It was about 2015, and a similar event happened in south of Kerrville, okay, in Wimberley. They put in an emergency alert system for flood warning after that, and I visited that as a county commissioner and tried to understand what they did. I understood that. I got them to come back to Kerr County with me, and I convened a meeting that defined what we could do if we had the resources and the community wanted to do it. I convened a meeting. It probably had 40 or 50 people in it, all the commissioners court, city council, a lot of other people throughout Kerr County. We decided to pursue that. We had the concept. We had some potential funding identified from grants from the state, and we decided to move forward. Everybody was in favor of moving forward with such a system. One of the aspects or features of the system was to have sirens. There was objection by some people that false alarms by sirens were going to be very disruptive to a lot of people for false alarms. So that was taken out of the first phase of such a program. So we pursued that program for a couple of years trying to get funding for it. We were not successful. It was not a large amount of money, like $1 million to do the system, probably without the sirens, a little bit more than that if we'd had the sirens in place.
So sirens, I understand you were willing to take out because there was some pushback on that. But what else was in there? I mean, obviously, everyone from Kerr County, where you were from, and the surrounding counties know about the risks here, right? Flash floods happen, but I know in other counties nearby, they did things like door-to-door knocks, and they saw fewer deaths. Now, at this point, you can't say, was that exactly the reason why or not? But what were some of the other things that you had hoped to get that I guess you're saying you weren't able to get the funding to pursue?
Well, what we'd hoped to do was to have an alert system that went out on cell phones. Now, that was a bit risky in itself because there's a lot of places in the county that, cell coverage is not there. But that was one feature of it. Another thing we hoped that some private camps and all would install a siren system to alert their campers and of that, but we did not implement a general siren system.
And when you think about what happened at these camps, obviously the camp policy is that kids don't have cell phones with them. That's the point of camp for most kids in most places. But it would seem that they wouldn't have had their cell phones with them, according to camp policy. So you were aware, I guess, of the fact that there are thousands of kids and there are so many camps in the area as you thought of your system, right? I mean, is that part of why you wanted things like sirens to alert a large population who wouldn't have access to technology?
Absolutely. There are two types of major events that can happen in Kerr County. Number one is a flood. Number two are fires. So we needed to, and it's very remote for a lot of people. We were looking to have a system that would alert, the general populace, okay, and do it in a timely way. So that was our objective. That was our plan. And we had the concept with which to do that. Let me add one thing. I think in a positive sense, this event, as tragic as it is, can be a catalyst to bring technology to date. There's a lot of technology that exists today with digital topographic materials, information, algorithms, communications, weather satellites, other types of satellites could all be put together in a very short period of time, in my opinion, okay, that could help to be available 99% of the time and effective in a high percentage effectivity for warning people. I hope that happens. I think it will happen. It's like when Kennedy said, put a man on the moon. Yeah. We didn't know exactly how to do it, but we did it, okay? So this would be that kind of thing. Somebody to take charge and say, let's go do it within a couple of years. Identify what needs to be done in a year and have a system in place in a couple of years.
Commissioner, thank you so much.
$1 million, not a lot of money.
Breaking news, President Trump just confirming he will be heading to Texas on Friday to see the damage and destruction caused by catastrophic flooding there. Central Texas also on edge right now as it faces the threat tonight of even more flash flooding, as crews are still searching desperately for 24 people who are still known to be missing already from the flooding. Flooding already blamed for at least 104 deaths is a horrifying reminder to Americans anywhere about how quickly flash flooding can become a life or death situation. CNN meteorologist Derek Van Dam is out front.
More than a summer's worth of rain fell in a matter of hours across the Texas Hill Country, triggering unprecedented flash flooding. The deadly tragedy, described as a 1 in 100-year flood disaster, struck in an area that was entrenched in the worst drought anywhere in the country. This weather whiplash, from drought to flood, is yet another example of human-induced climate change and its impact on extreme weather, one we have seen play out in California multiple times in recent years, as a multi-year drought was followed by atmospheric river-fueled flooding and mudslides. And then came the deadly wildfires in January. The frequency and intensity of heavy rain events are increasing. Last year alone, a record 91 flash flood emergencies, the rarest, most extreme warning issued less than 1% of the time, came from the National Weather Service. Generational flood events like last year's Hurricane Helene killed over 200 people and produced historic rain in North Carolina.
Any more down there?
Texans will remember Hurricane Harvey that dropped over 50 inches of rain in the Houston metro and was one of America's costliest weather disasters. It's not just with hurricanes. Residents across Kentucky and Tennessee are still recovering from inland flash flooding over the last couple of years. These events are a product of a warmer atmosphere that's able to hold more water vapor, acting to enhance rainfall rates, turning 100-year events into something every generation has to deal with. And even while the flood threat continues in Texas, parts of the East Coast are reeling from their own flash flooding as the remnants of Tropical Storm Chantal dropped months' worth of rain in the Raleigh-Durham area of North Carolina, also resulting in floods that turned deadly. Aaron, adaptation is crucial as we plan for our warming future, as all regions of the United States have experienced a marked increase in these heavy rainfall events over the past several decades. Aaron, back to you.
Derek, thank you so much. And I want to go now to the veteran meteorologist, John Morales. He's the longest serving meteorologist in South Florida. He's with NBC6. He's reporting on the severe weather that has been pummeled that area, frankly, for more than 30 years. And you may recognize Morales for making national headlines when he, known as being a stoic meteorologist, became emotional during hurricane coverage just a few months ago.
Just an incredible hurricane. It has dropped It has dropped 50 millibars in 10 hours. I apologize. This is just horrific.
John is with me now, and John, I'd say I'm glad to see you again, but of course I'm not, because we're talking again in this context. You have sounded the alarm every day. You've sounded the alarm on this show when you've come on in the past, and you have cautioned about the role of climate change, and you've said it's fueling more intense and unpredictable weather events. I mean, do you think that the pictures like the ones that we are seeing out of Central Texas are going to become something that people don't refer to anymore as 100-year events, but that do become some sort of a horrific new normal?
Oh, well, indeed. And Derek just did a terrific job, because this is the type of framing that we need to see more often from media sources. It's excellent to frame it that way because people need to know. Everybody out there needs to understand that these type of events, which based on the 20th century climate, used to be 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000 year events. Well, guess what? They're happening a lot more frequently than they used to. And it's because of, the atmosphere on steroids. The fact that, yes, indeed, we're holding more moisture in the air, that we see these whiplash events going from, drought to extreme rainfall, which, by the way, that the whole flood situation was worsened by the fact that the ground could not absorb the rainfall runoff because it was parched and dry from the drought. So people need to be prepared, and like your meteorologist stated, adaptation is going to be important, and obviously we can't ignore mitigation. We have to cut down on the injection of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere.
So, John, I want to show you the time-lapse video, which, people, when I hear people talking about this horrific story, they talk about the time-lapse video, which just shows how quickly the water rose in a town near Kerr County on Friday. I mean, over a span of 50 minutes, we're watching this, just how quickly it rose. And, people get alerts on their phones, and oftentimes, no matter where people may be, they may sort of shrug them off or not be sure what they really mean. But do you think seeing images like this, seeing how fast this water rose, will change anything when people watch this actually roll out before their eyes?
Social scientists have been studying this for years, if not decades. The National Weather Service, well, assuming they haven't been fired or are planned to be fired, has social scientists contracted and as part of the staff to be able to look at how do we get people to act on those calls to action, right? And what it turns out in the end is that folks, if they don't have that lived experience, if you haven't lived through a major hurricane, like let's say Andrew or Harvey, which was mentioned in that piece, then you tend not to act. You think it's never going to happen to you. So people need to see more of this, and they need to realize that, yes, sometimes the worst does happen.
You mentioned the National Weather Service and cuts. So I want to just play something, John, that you said on your newscast on NBC6 just a month ago. Let me play it.
Let's talk about the federal government cuts to the National Weather Service and to NOAA. Did you know that Central and South Florida National Weather Service offices are currently basically 20 to 40% understaffed? From Tampa to Key West, including the Miami office, 20 to 40% understaffed. Now, this type of staffing shortage is having impacts across the nation because there's been a nearly 20% reduction in weather balloon launches that carry those radiosondes. And what we're starting to see is that the quality of the forecasts is becoming degraded.
So how degraded is that quality right now?
Well, there were statistics looking at both, actually at 3 different global models in the spring that showed that they were less accurate than they had been, well, before January, frankly. Now, does that short-term trend mean that this is going to continue into, for example, hurricane season? We don't know yet, right? But I can tell you this, garbage in, garbage out with the models. And the fact that we have missing data means that these forecasts are likely to be less accurate going forward. And as far as the vacancies, well, they're double the amount of vacancies right now in the San Angelo and San Antonio offices in Texas. And yeah, I mean, San Antonio did very well in bringing 5 people on instead of 2 during that shift when the worst of the weather was going on. That's a common practice in the National Weather Service. But I tell you what, you know, when you're missing morning coordination meteorologists, meteorologists in charge, hydrologists, those are positions that are crucial and need to be filled.